Dear friends, welcome to the next session for software engineering and designing concepts. So in today's session, we will be dealing with various approaches for the designing of a particular project or product. So basically, these design approaches could be fundamentally classified into two different approaches, one being the function oriented design and the other is the object oriented design. In the function oriented design, the product is viewed or the project is viewed as a set of functions. However, in the object oriented design, which is a much more detailed form of designing, so it involves all the components which are viewed in the form of an object. So as the term suggests, function is relating to the functions and objects will be relating to the object oriented would be relating to the objects which are there in the system, or the components or entities that could be viewed as objects in that system. So let us first discuss about the function oriented design. The system is comprised of many smaller systems known as functions. So these functions are capable of performing significant tasks in the system, and the system is considered as the top view of all functions. So we can also consider this as a black box view of the function, where we will get an overall idea of all the functions which are involved in that particular system. Function oriented design inherits some properties of structured design where divide and conquer methodology is used. So structured design is another concept which we have already discussed, and basically we convert the entire project into smaller and sub-smaller domains or sub-smaller parts so that each of the parts could be individually examined and then it could be solved or it could be resolved at an individual level, and after that all these individual modules would be clubbed together to form a final product or final project. So it follows the principle of divide and conquer, where the entire module or entire project is divided into functions, and then each of these functions is individually implemented in order to avoid any type of chaos and complications. This design mechanism divides the whole system into smaller functions, which provides means of abstraction by concealing the information and their operation. These functional modules can share information among themselves by means of information passing and using information available globally. So, as we already discussed, that basically if there is a good design, or if we can want to categorize a particular design into a good design, we have to make it, or we have to incorporate properties of abstraction and decomposition in that particular design. So function oriented design greatly promotes abstraction to a level where the different modules will be concealed, or the functionalities could be concealed from each other, and the entities within that particular module or within that particular function is capable of sharing information or interacting with each other by information passing or using globally available information. So since it promotes abstraction to a great extent, it becomes easier to avoid any type of bugs or implementation issues which might be related to some other functions that are dependent on that particular function. Another characteristic of function is that when a program calls a function, the function changes the state of the program, which sometimes is not acceptable by the other modules. So function oriented design works well where the system does not matter and program or functions works on input rather than on the state. Now suppose there are two different functions which are trying to modify the same database table. So under those circumstances, the function oriented design is not appreciated, because the entire functionality of that particular function or one function will be depending on the state of the resource on which the other function is also working. So if there are any changes introduced to the database table by the other function, essentially it means that the previous function will no longer be able to work or will no longer be able to implement its functionalities based on the previous state of the database table. So it is extremely important that we categorize our functions based on the processes which do not depend upon the states of any of the resources or any of the functions of the system, however but depends on input and output of that particular function. So if we consider that particular aspect, the function oriented design becomes a successful one. Otherwise there might be a possibility the entire function might cease to work or do not work at all. Moving ahead, the function oriented design process, as already discussed, we have to understand that we are dealing with functions and the various data that goes in and goes out of that particular function. So the whole system is seen on how the data flows in the system by means of a data flow diagram. So basically data flow diagram is one of the pioneer diagrams in order to implement the function oriented design. The data flow diagram or DFD depicts how function changes state and data of the entire system. The entire system is logically broken down into smaller units which are known as functions on the basis of their operation in the system, and each function is then described at large. So this is something we have been discussing from the very start of this session. However, we have to understand that the first pioneer diagram which is used to incorporate function oriented design essentially is the DFD, which primarily deals with the data flow which is going in and out of the different processes or different functions in a particular system. So function oriented design approaches have been developed and they are represented using various methodology and design diagrams, and they are basically derived from various concepts which were developed by various scientists. The first is the structured design. So structured design, as already discussed, it corresponds to the divide and conquer policy, and it breaks down the entire system into smaller functions and each function is individually dealt with. The next is the Jackson structured design. This also relates to the structured design. So basically all of this design, they move around the concept of divide and conquer. However, different scientists or different researchers have different way of representing the function oriented design. So the third is Warnier-Orr methodology. The fourth is Wirth stepwise refinement, and the fifth one is Hatley and Peerbys methodology. So all of them refers to the function oriented design, and these were the pioneer methodologies from which the modern day function oriented representations have come into the picture. So the function oriented designs basically are meant to be used during the process of design and are used to represent the design or design decisions. For a function oriented design, the design can be represented graphically or mathematically by the following diagrams. The first one being the data flow diagram, the second is the data dictionary, the third one is the structured charts, and the fourth one is the pseudocodes. So all these four could be used to represent the function oriented design. Data flow diagram basically is a collection of processes and the input and output related to that particular process. By process we mean that the function of that particular system. So we will be dividing it into functions, and the various input and output along with the function is represented here. If at any level we need to refine any of the process or any of the functions, we will be going ahead with elaborate description of that functions in the subsequent levels. Generally, data flow diagram begins with the context level diagram, which is known as level 0, followed by level 1, level 2, and so on and so forth. So level 0 is basically the context diagram, where it is a bird's eye view of the entire system in a single process and the external entity which is interacting with it. So it does not show any detail level of that particular project or that particular product. However, in level 1 and level 2, the bird's eye view or the overall view is broken down into more detailed view, and the input and output pertaining to all the entities as well as the intermediate entities are represented. Generally, it is recommended that for level 1 and level 2 diagrams, it is best if the entire system can be restricted within 7 or 8 processes. If it exceeds beyond 7 or 8 processes, we have the provision of clubbing some of the processes to form a single process. So we will look at this when we will do DFD in detail. The second one is the data dictionary. So data dictionary, as the name suggests, it is basically a dictionary which will be taking care of all the references and details regarding the data that each of the function is working upon. For example, suppose I am developing a calculator. So my calculator is capable of handling integer numbers, floating point numbers, as well as the size of the integer number or the size of the floating number or the size of the long int number. All those things will be represented in the data dictionary, as well as some of the operations will also be represented there, so that whenever you look up to that particular dictionary, you will actually be able to identify which operation is responsible for what kind of functionality. So once this is done, it is a complete set of information regarding the what type of data we are going to use in our system, what will be the operations pertaining to those data, and what should be the output related to those data. Everything is represented in this data dictionary. The third one is the structure chart. So in the structure chart, the entire diagram is represented using hierarchical level of broken down functions of the main project. So it is basically like a tree like structure and the relations between various nodes. However, these nodes are represented using rectangular boxes, and we will look into more details when we will be doing structure chart. So basically the structure chart will be showing the different functions at different hierarchical levels of operation. The fourth and the last one is the pseudocode. This particular aspect you have already done in your earlier coding classes. So pseudocode is basically a representation of the entire implementation as well as the design concept, a step-by-step reference to whatever we are going to develop, but not in any programming language, but in a human understandable form. That means any close representation to maybe English for us, or any other language as per the user's choice. So the pseudocode essentially will represent the different step-by-step operations which will be performed during the implementation of the system, as well as the data which will be used as the input and the output. So the next approach is the object oriented design. The system is viewed as a collection of objects, which is the entities. So basically when we talk about objects, it is relevant to the real-time scenario, and here objects also essentially means the real-time objects. So system state is decentralized among the objects, and when we are talking about decentralizing, it means that the entire state of the system is distributed among the objects, and the objects are associated with certain responsibilities related to the system state. So each object will manage its own state information. Objects already has their attributes, properties, as well as names associated with it. However, when we are talking about a design concept, the state information is also associated. That means in which state is that particular object at present, and what will be the associated functions which will change the state information of that particular object. So everything will be related and described in the object oriented design. So object oriented design works around the entities and their characteristics instead of functions involved in the software system. This design strategies focuses on entities and its characteristics. The whole concept of software solution revolves around engaged entities. So object oriented design has got minimum to do with the functions which are associated in developing that project. However, object oriented design essentially will work with the state information as compared to the function oriented design, where we have to avoid the state information or avoid the state of the resources or functions that the particular entity is, or that particular function is about to face. So but how object oriented design is directly opposite, where it will be dealing with the entities and their respective state informations, and whatever the information changes are there, this also would be revolving around the engaged entities, and these entities will be primarily responsible for working with their state information. So we will do more of this object oriented design as well as function oriented design in our subsequent sessions. So object oriented design, going further, it essentially we have already done in our Java or object oriented programming classes, that they have certain properties which are very unique to them, which are only useful or unique to them. So basically object oriented design has the properties of inheritance, polymorphism, and maintaining their state information. So we have already discussed about maintaining the state information. These two primary things, which is inheritance and polymorphism, these two properties are intensely described by objects or entities which are there in that particular project. So it allows similar inheritance basically allows similar classes to stack up in hierarchical manner, where the lower or subclasses can import, implement, and reuse allowed variables and methods from their immediate superclasses. So this greatly involves inheritance from the superclasses, and we can reuse the properties and methodologies which were a part of the superclasses. This property of object-oriented design is known as inheritance, and it makes easier to define specific class and to create generalized classes from specific ones, or vice versa. So if suppose we have a particular method which is already using certain functions or certain operations or certain data, so we simply have to inherit those data. We do not need to create or explicitly mentions the creation of data in the child class or in the child object. So we do not have to basically recreate things, we can reuse things. So polymorphism is another phenomena which provides a mechanism where methods performing similar tasks but vary in arguments can be assigned the same name. For example, you are multiplying two integer numbers and two floating point numbers. So since it is addressing the same property or addressing the same state information, or it is basically relating to the same operation which is multiplication, we can simply keep the two operations under the same name, which is multiplication operation. Now the result might be different, the arguments might be different, however the operations are same, and hence we can give the same name for multiple operations. So this is called polymorphism, and this helps because we do not need to make additional effort in naming different methods differently, although they have the same operational logic. So it allows a single interface performing tasks for different types. So we do not need to develop multiple interfaces for similar operations if their arguments even or their if the arguments are same. So depending upon how the function is invoked, respective portion of the code gets executed. Suppose, as I already gave you the example, suppose I am using two floating point numbers and two integer numbers. So depending upon whether I am feeding in integer numbers or floating point numbers, that particular code is executed. The multiply operation for either integer or for floating point number is executed. So it is basically, it saves the amount of effort and it saves the amount of space also in order to, or computational time in order to perform the same set of operation, although their arguments are different. So object oriented design is a very suitable design for the current day scenario, because generally in real time world also we generally do not we are not dependent upon procedures, but the entities which are performing those procedures. So that is important from the design point of view. So we will be discussing more on this and more on the representative diagrams of function oriented design and object oriented design in our subsequent classes. So that is all for today. Thank you.